Hey, welcome. I am so excited today. Let me tell you a little bit about Maria. She is a master certified life coach. She's also a #1 international best-selling author of the book She Rises. And additionally, she has a podcast. And I'll let her share a little bit more about all of those and about the podcast as well, because I know you're going to want to follow her and listen to her because she really is brilliant. But she's been one of our Tiny Habits certified coaches for quite a while. Maria, I have a question for you. How did you find out about Tiny Habits and why did you decide to get certified?
Well, that is such a good question. And it's one of those things that I honestly just think was providential. I had finished my certification as a life coach through the life coach school. And then no one tells you this. You get your training as a coach, and then you have to figure out the whole business side of it. And I had no idea where to go next. And Tiny Habits just happened to pop up in my inbox. And I thought, this is the thing. And so that is where I started. And honestly, that was such a huge tool that I have used in my coaching with all my clients. So yeah, I was really grateful that you popped up in my inbox.
Well, I'm grateful too, because as you know, we have an amazing coach community and you're a really important part of that community. So I'm grateful that you came into our world. And I love the fact that you stated how beautifully it overlays with what you're already doing. The
Yeah.
way I like to explain it is I always say, okay, in other certifications, it's like we're taught through the certifications what we need to get our clients to do. But the missing piece is the how, which Tiny Habits is the tool to help your clients actually create those sustainable changes. It's the how piece. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I help clients, I've discovered that we're as humans, we're just integrated with so many facets. And so meeting my clients where they are, where they need me, it could be mindset, it could be working with emotions, it could be working with like nervous system regulation, and it could be working with strategies. And what I love about Tiny Habits is that habits are found in any one of those things. So it can be just the strategy of how to get to a goal, but it could also be I have limiting beliefs and I need to change my limiting beliefs. And we use habits in there. Or my nervous system is a little bit on overdrive and I need to calm my nervous system down so that my body can feel safe again. Well, we use Tiny Habits in there too. And so it's just woven into all those parts that are integrated into a whole person.
Can you give us some examples of some Tiny Habit recipes in any of those areas that you just mentioned that you've either used yourself or helped your clients design?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of them is kind of an offshoot of BJ's favorite. For all those who have read the book, it's you put your feet on the ground and you say, "Oh, it's going to be a great day." And what I have added to that is I put my hand to my heart, just a little hug, and I take a deep breath and I just say, "What is it that I need?" And so I start my day off just with a check-in of what do I need today to feel supported? Like I have a lot of children. I'm now a grandma. And so I,
Congratulations. It's the best.
I love it. And, working with my clients and with everything I do, it's easy to lose myself in that and to forget to support myself in that. And so just starting my day, one with a let's kick this off that it's going to be a great day, but also just that supporting moment of a deep breath and to just check in. What do I need today to feel supported?
You know, that is so important for busy moms. And I know that's who you work with mostly are really busy moms that are overwhelmed. They are high achievers. They have high responsibilities. They're driven. But I've fallen into this category myself is sometimes we neglect ourselves or don't take care of ourselves because we're so busy taking care of other people. What are some other habits that you help your moms that you work with develop? And what's the results?
I call myself a joy and wellness coach because I work holistically to
Mm.
help women feel good, right? And to experience wellness, whether it's physically or internally. And part of that is just the power of the pause. And I used to have this habit when I lived on the East Coast. One of the most beautiful things was an October sky, a blue October sky on the East Coast with the fall foliage. And I would make it a habit when I would walk outside, I would just pause, take in a deep breath, and I would just notice. I just noticed around me. And now that I live in the desert, I've come up with something else because just the scenery is a little bit different. And this is so funny. People kind of tease me about it, but I call it the Arizona hug. When I walk out and I feel that sun, I've just made it a habit that I pause and I just let that sun just envelop me into a hug. And then it's just that pause where I have trained myself to be open for joy, because sometimes we wait for joy in big events and they're definitely found there. But if you can train yourself with a habit of pausing to just let in the wonder of life that's all around us. I mean, every day there's miracles and wonder if you just stop and look for it. That's probably one of the most life-changing things for me and to share with my clients.
Wow, that's great. And as someone who, like yourself, tends to be an overachiever, I think we underestimate the importance of pausing to appreciate the nature, our surroundings, our families. I love that. Your company is called Joyful Reinvention. Talk to me a little bit about that. Why did you name it Joyful Reinvention, and what does that really mean?
Well, so it kind of just again fell on my lap. I was preparing an interview for something else, and I was thinking, okay, what it was specifically for midlife women, and I'm starting to go to be in that stage, or I have been in that stage, but that stage honestly can cover a couple, 2 or 3 decades, right? And I was thinking, like, okay, what can help those women the most? And then as I started like figuring out where I fall in that, because it's like, I'm not an empty nester yet. I don't have young kids yet, but I'm still feeling this pull of like perimenopause is happening, but I'm still in the thick of it. I'm driving kids everywhere and they're very busy, and I'm homeschooling and I'm starting a business. And just this idea of one, experiencing joy more often so that we're not just waiting for it to come to us or waiting for this big moment, that we can be busy, we can support a lot of people, and we can enjoy doing it ourselves. Because I think sometimes we're running on such autopilot that we just forget why we're doing the things that we're doing in the first place. And we lose some of the joy because of that. And so if we learn to, like I said before, just pause to let that joy in, but then also this reinvention part is this idea that we can, like, every day is a chance for reinvention. Like, you don't have to fall off the wagon, get back on. You can just start again any day and start your day with joy. And so where it kind of started with like women that were specifically in my like age dynamics or age demographics, I started thinking like this is relevant for anyone in any stage. Is we're always reinventing ourselves. And if we can make that process just as joyful as possible so that we're not always waiting to get to the finish line that is always moving. It's like that elusive, never ending finish line. We can just capture that joy and enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so great. And as you're talking, what came to mind for me was an example of like when we drive our cars, we do have to stop and get gas. We have to fill back up that car, else we can't go any further. I think as moms, oftentimes we don't realize we need to stop and refill our tanks ourselves, whether that be joy, whether that be rest, whether that be, time with friends. So I love the fact that you are defining that as joy, because if we don't have joy in the journey, why are we even on the journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like the hamster wheel. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I have so much respect for you with raising 6 children. I know that in and of itself is a full-time job. And I mean, it's more than a full-time job, but also the fact that I know you've moved cross country. You've got a very active family, because I follow you on social media and I always love seeing what you're doing. And you are helping people change their lives using the tiny habits method. That's remarkable. I am sure that you come across a lot of burnout moms, and maybe you've even felt burnout yourself. How do you help moms like that reestablish confidence that they can keep moving forward or even trust in themselves? I'm really curious, what habits do you recommend for burnout moms? for moms to help them reestablish that factor of trust in themselves and the confidence that they're doing a good job. And most often they are. They just don't think they are.
Yeah. Well, so one, that asking yourself what you need today. Imagine like a little toddler who's like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And if you keep pressing them down and pushing them aside, either they're going to melt down or they're going to check out, right? And sometimes we as humans are like, well, she's not listening to me. And so like it kind of checks out until it shows up in other ways, like chronic illness or other illnesses. And so I feel like the best thing with tiny habits is the fact that they're tiny. Because sometimes, and the best way to build self-trust is to, one, check in with yourself so that yourself knows that you have your back, right? But two, when you do what you say you're going to do, that's another way of building self-trust. But sometimes we get really excited and we have this huge vision in front of us. And then we get frustrated when we start on that thing and it's a little bit harder than we initially thought. So just the fact that we focus on something tiny that you can follow through on starts to build that self-trust again. And then it's just the momentum of keeping that going. With moms, we oftentimes, our identity gets so put into who we are as moms. And that's a beautiful thing. That's my favorite identity, honestly. But sometimes we move to another phase of life where we're not sure, like now, like, oh, I have children that are grown up. They don't need me as much, but they need me in a different way. And now I'm a grandma. Now I have daughters-in-law. And sometimes just using just a habit, like when we talk about like a joyful reinvention, knowing that every day is like a new day for discovery, and just allowing for the small moments of the day to allow that and to make those movements in tiny segments makes it so it's not so overwhelming and that we can trust ourselves in the process.
That's beautiful. What are some more examples that you have that your clients have been able to reinvent themselves joyfully or to use tiny habits to be a better mom? Do you have some stories or examples that you can share with us?
Yeah, I do have a couple of stories. One actually is not a mom. I I also teach principles of success class to teens. If you're helping teens with some of this stuff, that's a huge support to moms too, right? I've been teaching this class for a couple years now. And the first semester is always focused on habits, and the second part of the year is focused on some big goal. And oftentimes habits are part of that big goal. And this mom, she came up to me afterwards and she was like, that was life changing for my son. And it was so cute. I actually asked her if I could share this. He had a goal to juggle his soccer ball. And he had less than 10 in a row that he could do. And just by setting up a habit every day to practice, I believe he wanted to get 60, I think it was, and he surpassed that by like over 20, I think. It was like he just blew it out of the water and he was so excited. But the most important thing, and this is what I try to really instill in the youth and in the moms, is that like the thing that you get at the end is awesome. But what he learned in the process of getting there is truly like the becoming part. And gosh, that's joyful. That's my favorite part, is like, what did you overcome? Because there's some limiting beliefs. There's some learning to do things when you're not motivated. Those are the things that you can really, really be proud of. And at the end, he can juggle. He like accomplished this big goal. But I also have a story of this sweet mom. This is part of like that reinventing thing where, as moms, and I experience this too, postpartum, we just don't feel like ourselves. And sometimes you just feel like, will I ever be myself again? And you start to think that you've totally lost yourself, right? And it's sometimes just those small habits, just letting it happen naturally and just a little bit at a time, which makes the biggest difference. And the difference I saw in her, and honestly, like just working to not be comparing herself to someone else and just loving herself through the process. I mean, that was probably one of the most magical experiences I've had with a client.
Wow, those are both life-changing experiences that you've been able to facilitate for other people. That's remarkable. I know there's more than that you've worked with that have had similar experiences. In both of those cases, what really stands out to me is you help them build confidence and a belief in themselves. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because we are amazing. Like humans are amazing. We can accomplish really great things, but we just have to be brave enough to take that first step. And if it can just be tiny, like that's the first step, right?
As you know, in the certification training, we teach habit formation as a skill. And I'm just so impressed that you work with teens. So how do you help your children design tiny habit recipes?
Well, I work it into conversations. That's how I do that. I give
Sort of like
suggestions.
vegetables in the dinner, right? You hide them.
Exactly. It's like when you like sneak it in and they're actually the ones that encouraged me to get into life coaching because they would hear me listen to all these podcasts and books and tape and whatnot. And they're the ones that initially were like, Mom, I think this is what you're supposed to do. And I was like, really? And so they hear me listening to these things just naturally. And so they hear a lot of what I teach just because I'm constantly listening to it to improve myself. And every coach needs a coach, right? Like
Right.
just because I coach other people doesn't mean that I don't have those experiences where I have my own limiting beliefs or I just have to kind of get out of my own head and work through the process as well. And so I mean, yes, I sit down and we go over goals and we go over strategies and I offer to help them. But I think probably the biggest thing as a mom is just that they watch me go through the same process that they need to go through. An example is probably one of the best teachers.
Oh, 100% agree. 100% agree. I've taught the Tiny Habits certification since 2012. And at that time, I think my youngest was 14, if I remember. Anyway, but as a result, sort of by just association, she really truly is an expert at designing tiny habit recipes for herself. So much so that her senior year of high school, she was a straight A student, whereas prior to those years, she was more interested in other things besides studies. She's an amazing artist, but once she learned tiny habits and was able to apply that to her academics, she just took off. I'm sure you've seen that with your kids or the teens that you've worked with.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible when they believe when they start to get a glimpse of the power that they hold inside of them. I mean, the sky's the limit. It's so
Yeah.
awesome to see these kids light up and just be like, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe that's something I could do.
What a great
It's
life skill.
it's so magical to watch. I love it.
You've already shared a few of your tiny habit recipes that you use and are your favorite, but what are some more of your favorite recipes?
One of the ones that I started with was when I was going through certification with you. Um, I just like every other mom who has like my life, I become the Uber driver once like 3:30 hit, right? And then I'm just driving a child here, driving them there, and then picking them up, and then like it's just that's kind of what my life looks like in the afternoons and evenings until about 9:30 at night. And I remember I would get, and I'm not a road rage kind of person, but what I was feeling is that I would get in the car and it was just like the nervous energy of trying to get through my day went with me, and you could feel it. You could feel like, and I remember actually driving with it wasn't one of my children, it was someone else, and they're like, I stopped at a stoplight and I took a deep breath and she was like, thank you, because she could just feel it. I was just all like, okay, got it. My mind's going a million miles an hour. So we just moved here to Arizona, and at some point she was getting close to getting her permit or something, and I remember thinking, oh gosh, she's watching everything I do and I want to be a good example to her. And I was like, and I don't like having this like nervous, like go, go, go energy. It just made me feel like maybe I wasn't 100% like in the zone that I need to be when you're doing something important like driving, but even though it's like something that we just do naturally every day. So I got into the habit of I get into my car and I take a deep breath And I say, I'm a calm driver. And then it just lets that nervous energy go. And it was kind of funny because I had to play with that habit a little bit, kind of like what we teach with clients. And I was like, this is not taking off. Why am I forgetting to do this? And I realized that when I get into the car, the first thing I do is I turn on the air conditioner, or I turn it on because it's like Hades in here. It's like it was 115. I was like, we're going to turn the car on. And then the next thing is I get it out of the garage because I don't want those fumes in my car. So I had to kind of play around with it. And then once I practiced it, just, okay, as soon as I back the car out, I put it back in park, I take a deep breath. And often I will add to that, like starting a podcast. So I'm completely not distracted, like fiddling with things. Like I just wanted to be completely with my eyes on the road. But no, I also sometimes just like to use that time to talk with my children. And so I'll take a deep breath and then I'll think, what questions can I ask my children? Because that's very useful time.
That's awesome. One of the parts, as you know, of the tiny habits method is what we call the instant celebration. And that's tapping into emotions to create habits because we attach those emotions to those tiny behaviors. But I'm sure, as you know, that tends to be a difficult concept for many people. How do you help your clients overcome that? And what are some of your favorite celebrations?
Well, I talk about how important it is, like the purpose, like biologically, like the dopamine that we get when we're reprocessing our brain to try something new. I explain how important it is. But the other thing I do is I share mine, and I'm like, I get into my celebrations, and especially with like my teen class, like they know my favorite. So it used to be a little dance party. I would do a little dance party to I were you, I'd want to be me too, which, because that's just funny. It just made everyone laugh. But then I saw Wicked and I fell in love with Galinda's hair toss. And so now I'll start my class or I'll start a session. I'll say, what was a win from the week? And it doesn't matter like how small or big their win is, but and I chopped my hair off, but I still get the hair toss. I'm like, toss, toss, toss. And it's just funny. Like, if I can like laugh with it, I mean, just doing that brings me joy. For some of my adult clients, they are a little bit more reserved around it, and I just try to really celebrate with them so that they get more comfortable with celebrating themselves. But that is my favorite. That's my favorite one, is a toss. Like you'll see me just tossing it or doing a little dance just whenever I can. And of course, the most powerful one is always that it's a change of identity. So like I'm becoming, I do this thing, I'm becoming that person. Like look at me already becoming, I'm already taking steps on that path. Because like inevitably we get to the top of that mountain and there's like another mountain right after it, right? That finish line. But if we can just take steps and do hair tosses, do a little dance, just let ourselves be the person who we're trying to be, but be that person now, just allowing that is exciting and fun and powerful.
What I love about that the most is you've made the celebration very unique and individual to you. And I love that. I might have to borrow that one for sure.
You have much better hair tossing
Yeah, I've got
than I do.
my hair's longer now, so maybe maybe I will take that one up. But the fact that it's meaningful to you and it's unique to you is really, to me, interesting and hugely important because, most people really struggle with the emotions creating habits and finding a celebration that works for them. And so thank you for sharing that. And especially the one of recognizing that you are moving forward on changing your identity can act as a celebration.
Yeah, and I think that so often we're socialized to not want to celebrate ourselves. Like we feel awkward to bring that, but if people can understand, like celebrating yourself is not meaning that you think you're better than anyone else. Like I can be like, toss, toss, you're awesome. And toss, toss, I'm awesome. And toss, toss, we're all awesome. Like there's enough for all of us to be awesome and to celebrate it. And if we can just understand that and allow it, it's fun. I mean, it was awkward for me too, because I think we're all kind of brought up with that being maybe silly or maybe conceited or something like that. talk about joy. That brings me
Well, and
joy.
talk about joy reinvention. I think everything we've talked about as we've had this discussion really embodies number one, joyfulness, and how to really find joy in our lives and create joy in our lives. And the fact that we're never too old to reinvent. And every day is an opportunity to reinvent. That's really a great perspective. Maria, you are doing such amazing work. Thank you so much for being part of our Tiny Habits Coach community and for really touching people's lives. What is their next step?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Maria Hendershot Coaching. They can find me at joyfulreinvention.com, or they can listen to my brand new podcast, the I've Got You Mama podcast, which is just launched. So, yeah.
And little side note, Maria is really fun to follow on Instagram. So I feel like I know all your kids. I've never met one of them in true life, but they are, it's really fun to be a fly on the wall in your house. Thank you.
Oh, that's so nice of you. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for being with us. And go find Maria. She has a wealth of wisdom, especially if you're one of those moms who feels so burnt out and just some days just overwhelmed. Maria's your guy. She's your guy.
All right. Oh, thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.